Hi everyone. This is, I think, our second video on the Build with Stakki series that we are working through with partners, VPs of sales, CROs, and leaders to help everyone try and make sense of the crazy sales tech market out there. Today we're working with Sam Gillingham, co-founder, director of marketing, also leads the sales development team over at Rocketphone, a dialer and AI transcription stroke note-taking tool for Salesforce specifically, who are doing a great job over there. So yeah, Sam, do you want to make a quick introduction, explain a little bit about yourself and Rocketphone?
Yeah, thank you, James. So as James said, I'm Simon Gillingham, co-founder at Rocketphone with my co-founder Mudge Chowdhury, who's the real Salesforce veteran in this story. But yeah, we basically set out with Rocketphone to kind of make sure that we're tying that gap between CRM and conversation. You know, in between, there's a lot that goes missing, a lot that doesn't enter the CRM. We want to make sure that with Rocketphone, we're plugging that gap, but using the best in AI and automations to make it not a burden to reps, but an additive help. Basically, is the mission for Rocketphone as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think the way you guys are going about it is really smart. You know, we'll come on to maybe some of the more exciting features with like Rocket Cell and stuff like that makes you really unique. But let's obviously tell us a little bit maybe about like your SDR team and like and I guess your whole outbound team. What is the premise? Obviously, what you guys do is probably obvious, or it should hopefully be obvious to everyone what your preferred channel is and why. But just give me like a little bit high level of the channel that they use and why you think they use that.
Yeah, certainly. So, although whilst Rocketphone as a company has been around for a few years, our outbound motion is basically maybe 10, 11 months old. So this all started in the early part of 2024, and right at the beginning, I was pretty new to the sales tech world, apart from obviously Rocketphone. So we went initially with just one BDR, doing kind of cadence-based outreach out of Apollo. So day one, send an email. Day two, send a LinkedIn request. Day three, phone, and repeat. Didn't work. And I know we've discussed reasons why that perhaps doesn't work on other sessions, James, but ultimately that didn't work. So we need to make some wholesale changes. And I think what the first change that we realised that we needed to make is that it's never great just to have one BDR anyway. You need to have a team around so everyone can benchmark against each other, pull everyone along. So at that point, we then said, right, we need a BDR team. So we got 4 BDRs, rejigged the whole approach, and thought, right, kill the other channels, kill email, kill whatever it is. That's a marketing function. Email automation, that belongs under marketing. You guys, the BDRs, we have hired you to talk to customers, and that is primarily what you're going to do. So the way we do that is we supply them with lists of accounts that have been verified as best we can, use Salesforce, which is important to us as a product, from an integration point of view. And that's using Apollo. They have their list of accounts, and then we use.
Whoa. Let's hold our horses there. We're going to work through the tools that you're using, but well put. Good background to the story.
Basically, the phone.
That's what I was hoping for.
We use the phone. We use Rocketphone.
There we go. But like I think one point you made there was like, and it's you know me well enough now, like that whole like cadencing and sequencing that has got handed to SDRs, and I think a lot of like the sales development world as it was growing over the last 5 years was led down the path of use these engagement tools because it helps you cover your market, helps you use different channels and all that sort of stuff. And you kind of realize now that there's a move back to cold calling because in some aspects you can create email monkeys of SDRs, and you want them to be speaking to people, you want them to be like more proactive, trying to get hold of people, which cold calling favors. But the thing you said was like that email functions moved back under marketing. You see that as a marketing function, which is maybe the traditional way of looking at it, but it works for a reason. It was always that way for a reason. And have you seen like that's, as I know, is that freed up the SDRs massively? Do they have a lot less distraction? And I imagine it means that they're more consistent and more focused throughout the day.
Yeah, completely. And to be taking it back, I see sales development as a marketing function. In fact, so under marketing, you have cadence with email automation. You also have sales development, which is the BDRs. That's how kind of I've taken this approach.
Yeah.
In terms of focus, it makes it so much easier because you could spend half an hour crafting a really good email. And I know the cadence tools, they add templates, they add so-called AI to pre-generate it, but usually they're crap. So the best way is you actually write it yourself, and that you spent half an hour, or you could have picked up the phone and had the same result in a minute. And you do that 30 times in that same half an hour. I'm not saying one channel is better than the other in terms of effectiveness, but as humans, we can only do so much. So why not choose a channel that we can do most with? And for sales development, that's the phone.
Yeah. Nice way of putting that, for sure. So let's obviously Salesforce. You are a Salesforce specific dialer, so obviously you need to use Salesforce as the CRM. How have you managed to use Salesforce, I guess, to best suit the SDRs? I think when me and you first met, we did a lot of chat around just how to actually set up a CRM specifically to support that, and it's one of the things we see wrong all the time at Stakki when we're talking to VPs, sales leaders, marketing leaders. Is most CRMs are set up for after once someone has had that first meeting and they're in the sales cycle or they're a customer. There's not a lot of set up for that previous section, that prospecting stage. That just really makes it easy for SDRs. So have you made a lot of unique changes for them?
Yeah, I don't know how unique it is. I mean, we can only see it through our lens, but I think we made a decision very early on is that we want Salesforce to be that center of operation and center of data. So all execution happens within Salesforce as much as possible. That was a key decision for us. And the way we've set it up is that we don't bother with the lead object. I know that's something foreign to HubSpot users and other users. You don't have lead in contact, you only have contact, but Salesforce you do. But we disregarded lead because it's an extra step of complication. So we're solely using the contact object. And then what Salesforce is really good at is getting quite powerful list building. So we push as much data as we can into Salesforce about every contact, about every account. So therefore, the BDRs can go quite granular in their segmentation of how they want to build out their lists, whether that's an account-based list or a contact-based list. They can get really granular. And it gives them that degree of freedom because the list building aspect of Salesforce is quite straightforward. So all I have to make sure is that good data is in there. They can enhance it and add to it, and then they kind of operate how they works best for them. What order they want to go in, what filters they want to apply, that kind of thing. And we have added additional fields, for things like next touch point or contact stage, that point specific to a phone operation. Some extra fields on the account level to help that filtering. But nothing too crazy, and I think it's got to a point now where it's quite a slick operation where they can all say, "This is my list. I know who I need to call. I know everything about them really in this list."
Yeah, list view, specific statuses against contacts,
yes,
and timestamp. So you can create a focused effort of calling through a list. And then you can create a focused effort on actually creating follow-ups, following up relentlessly, because that's what generates pipeline in the future, not the next shiny object and the next special tool that everyone seems to get.
And then, by being in Salesforce, you've done the list, you've actually got a meeting. That's where Salesforce is really powerful in the deal management side of things, using the opportunity object and flows around that. We're kind of in its infancy, really. There's a lot more we want to do with it, but already it's really powerful, forecasting, pipeline. That there isn't a better tool out there, we humbly say.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's where a lot of your integrations from Rocketphone into there also really just help play and give you that insight into how much activity is being done, how much, and helps you then with that forecasting forward from the SDRs to the AEs to the opportunities, etc. So good little bit of insight there into how you're using Salesforce. From the data perspective, then obviously you guys are focused on mobile data, right? What tools are you using? Which tools have you used? Which are the ones that you're finding the best and most reliable for you guys?
So looking through this, we have used Casper. Used Casper before.
Yeah,
We've used Apollo
good tool.
before,
Yeah,
and we've kind of settled on Better Contact as our primary option, given that they have
interesting.
the waterfall functionality.
Interesting.
So actually, they consider Casper data and some of the others here in their waterfall. So
Yeah,
I guess by default we are using Casper, but not intentionally. It's
yeah,
part of the waterfall process with Better Contact.
yeah.
So
Nice.
I'm primarily using, and both of these only have one account. So I have one account of Apollo, one account for Better Contact, and we just have bulk order of API calls, and
Nice.
that's how it works, most efficient. So yeah, Better
Also, how
Contact is.
that must be like an efficiency decision on your part then, rather than everyone having individual licenses and individual access. You are doing more of the upfront data sourcing and maybe data build for them, and then you've got a one license with a large number, I assume, of API calls to help, so that a team can still access that as and when they need it. But are you doing more of the upfront sourcing for them, or
Yeah, yeah, completely, and that's kind of where I'm leveraging Apollo. I
yeah,
don't believe Apollo has the best phone data, certainly not for UK and EU, but it is moderately good at a contact and account information. So I can do a filter of accounts or companies using Salesforce under 500 employees,
yeah,
excluding these industries, and that's a list of thousands of accounts that I then divvy up, give to my reps.
yeah,
They don't need to be doing that because one, it's very easy for me to do that, so it's not really much a time burden, and it means they just haven't got to have that mind switch of yet another tool. They can basically operate out of Salesforce and LinkedIn. That's it.
yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing. One thing your team have been really good at, or you've been really good at for your team, is just trying to limit the amount of like tool switching distractions, so that they can become really good cold callers, and that's what we see with the team now, right?
One tool we do actually have, which is on a per user basis, is
Yeah,
Surf.
yeah,
So we don't give assigned contacts to our reps anymore. We did, but I think what we were realizing that the sweeping assumptions you make about roles can be wrong a lot of the time. We
yeah,
actually get better value out of the reps themselves, having a little bit of study of LinkedIn on
yeah,
each account, working out who really is the most appropriate 3-4 people from each account to add into their list. Now, it may not be a VP of sales, which is what we hypothesize. In that particular organization, it might be COO that's more relevant. If we've made those sweeping assumptions at the beginning, there'll be a lot of wasted call-outs.
yeah,
So a
exactly.
little bit of research up front is time-consuming, but this is where Surf is very useful, because once they have this, they identified all the contacts they want to add, Surf then pushes that into Salesforce automatically.
Yeah,
And Surf has a better contact integration, so that the enrichment automatically takes place. So literally with a click of a button, every contact and account goes into Salesforce, enriched with mobile and email, which has been quite a transformation for efficiency.
yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things I was actually going to come on to here. So actually, Better Contact, unless they have updated it recently, I don't believe integrates with Salesforce.
Not
But
natively, no.
yeah, exactly. So you're using Surf to help create those contacts, and because Better Contact can integrate with Surf, you're still getting that same, 1-2 clicks, can pull a contact from LinkedIn onto someone's list with the enriched data, and then your team are back to, as we said, we've created that focused list build for them to just work consistently through. And the point you're making about like letting them determine and do some of the research on who they want on their list, I think like some companies might push back on that and say, well, they shouldn't be doing loads of research. Do the research for them, give them the list. It's like, to a point that is true, but it's, you take into account resources, you take into account the longer term impacts of them not sourcing contacts themselves. The ability for them to source 3 to 5 contacts per account themselves, enrich that themselves, increases their confidence, their recognition of that list. They become more and more familiar with it. So 90 days time, 180 days time, like they know exactly who on that list answers, they know who they have the follow-ups, and that's what creates that compound effect and that flywheel of just consistently having 10 to 15 bits of pipeline to follow up with that you've spoken to previously, book meetings, and then continue sourcing fresh contacts and building more pipeline. So this is just like, well, this is my cold caller dream. Nice clean list, data comes in, I can pick up the phone again.
Yeah, I mean, I have an understanding and a desire of what our ICP and roles want and need to be, but actually, I trust my BDRs to know it better, to some degree. They're at the coalface, I'm not, so they can make that nuanced judgment on who needs to hear about this in each organisation. That's nothing I could ever do with just some broad filtering.
Exactly, and that's exactly where like I think a lot of all of these tools and buying signals, AI tools, intent to a large extent, like there's a lot of tools out there that are like misleading, or I believe are misleading how like the market really works. And they're saying, oh, if you need to do loads of the research and it's really about quality. And it's like, there is, like, you do need to do quality outreach, that's correct, but you will get to like quality cold calls by your team building the list themselves, recognizing who's on there, having more conversations and getting better over time. There is like too much, there's often like too much put on the value of like just really diving in and sourcing, spending your whole day building the perfect list, when really you need to just crack on, start having conversations, and you'll learn that way.
One thing, actually, I don't know if you want to do it at this point, we have SalesNav licenses as well.
Nice. SalesNav. Do you still find SalesNav is like an absolute necessary for SDRs? Like, I think a lot of SDR teams with all these tools, like Apollo for list building and stuff, like you can get away without Sales Navigator nowadays.
You 100% can.
A lot of people might hang me for. But.
No, I do agree in principle. The only reason why we do still have SalesNav is because of the email credits and the connection limits that you have. I know I've been spouting gold about phoning, but we do have a lot of joy with coinciding that with time managed LinkedIn activity to support as a secondary channel. And SalesNav basically it enables you to do a bit more. It could be seen as a luxury, but if we can enable the reps to be a bit more efficient, I'm up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I actually would say that with the setup you've gone for, and you want to focus on that cold calling, SalesNav, and you're not buying automated LinkedIn tools and things like that. In that scenario, having Sales Navigator, so that hour a day or a couple hours a week where they go on and they just try and connect, try and generate some interesting conversations with some of the prospects they've not reached on the phone, Sales Navigator is probably really useful. Which helps us skip over maybe some of these engagement options. We've mentioned Apollo, but you're using that for more of a list build rather than giving the guys with a cadence and sequencing, which I think is actually how most companies I speak to are
Yeah, I'd
using
say
Apollo.
Apollo are good at data. Keep them for that and get
Yeah,
best of breed for your other tools.
yeah, exactly. Which conveniently brings us on to Rocketphone.
Lovely.
Um, this is your chance to tell us a little bit more about Rocketphone, why it's so good. Obviously, knowing you closely, like I love Rocketphone. If I was a Salesforce user, and I had a team of like, you know, anywhere between like 10, maybe 100 SDRs. I don't know. You tell me where it maybe like caps out on the top end, but I'd probably be looking at Rocketphone because of the reliability, because of the transcription and the way that just automatically puts notes into Salesforce, so I can move on to my next calls quicker. But yeah, what's in the pipeline for Rocketphone as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you touched on it nicely there, James. So, Rocketphone, in our opinion, is the only consideration from a phone point of view that you want to make if you are using Salesforce. Now, we've made that key decision because actually to build a good Salesforce phone system, you have to go so deep into the Salesforce data model. You have to go so deep into that open CTI framework. You know, it's not straightforward. It's not something you can be good at and be good at HubSpot and Pipedrive and Zoho. So we've made that key decision to focus solely on the Salesforce experience. And what that enables us to do is to push data into Salesforce, into the Salesforce data model that you could never have achieved with any other solution. And not only pushing the data in there, but using that data as key moments as triggers to automate workflows, Salesforce workflows. So not only accomplish the logging of the call, but actually kick off actions within Salesforce itself. The other proponent that we'd like to kind of push is that all this happens in real time. And technically, that is incredibly hard to build inside of Salesforce. We've managed to do that. So there's live transcript, live call assistants coming to the reps. Bearing in mind, this is all inside Salesforce. No one's navigating away to a different app. They can see their contact information, account information, whatever they want. This is all happening inside Salesforce. So all happening real time, kicking off those actions, kicking off those call assistants to make sure that the rep is being as successful as they possibly can on every call. And then closing the gap after the call. Admin time is a minute, 2 minutes. Action, just to confirm a few things that the system has spotted that it wants to go off and create an opportunity, create a complaint, create a scheduled callback, tick, 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 done. So what used to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, now takes a minute. And it's quite an easy ROI calculator when we sit down with a customer and can work out, where can we save you money, but more importantly, where can we add revenue, given our system is listening to conversation in real time to spot things that your reps might not be spotting. So that's the soft phone solution as it stands. Now that sits in a wider platform solution that we're pushing. So we have another product called Rocket Cell, which is a eSIM solution. So obviously the soft phone is great for your desk-based sales reps, but those in the field sales, field service, they use these funny things called mobiles. And those calls never make it into CRM. They never make it into Salesforce because it relies solely on manual input. There's no technical solution. Until Rocket Cell, because we are at the network level, we are the eSIM that you install on your mobile device. We listen, record, transcribe all those conversations and push into Salesforce. So we've actually closed that conversation gap completely. And later this year, you'll also have Rocket Video. So your Google Meets, your Zooms, your Microsoft Teams calls with customers, they all will enter into Salesforce as well. So we'll have the full package. Any team, any department can get benefit from our platform.
Yeah, so once that's all sorted and that's up, you also fall into this sort of, I guess, a conversation intelligence piece as well, right? But as you mentioned, like, you're the only one who can provide the eSIM to run on the network for someone's mobile. So, I think that is really beneficial. I think it's really exciting. It's interesting. And you say it's for field sales people out and about, people not at their desks. But at the moment, the number of times I actually work with an SDR team, and the younger generation, they still want to use their mobile. They still want to pick up their mobile, and if he's watching, he'll know who he is. There's one person in particular I scream at every week saying, put your Jabra headset on. Put your headset on. Put the Jabra on. It will make it easier. It makes it more efficient, and we can track it, and we can listen, and I can help you. But actually, just having an eSIM, give people that freedom.
Done.
And like particularly like maybe more like traditional IT companies, like your big storage vendors and stuff. Pretty sure like they will still buy mobiles and laptops for every single employee, and one that I know in particular hire a good number of SDRs every quarter or every year. They all get mobiles, laptops, and they want to use the mobiles to call, which you have to work with people and meet people where they are to a degree. If they're going to pick up their mobile, they're going to pick up their mobile, going to keep picking up the mobile. Something like a Rocket Cell, the eSIM, means that you can still track all those calls. You can get the recordings, you can get the transcription, whether they're using the headset or their mobile, and everyone benefits.
And guess what? You can stop buying the hardware, because you can just put the SIM on their personal device. What a cost saving that is.
Exactly, right? So there's a huge cost save there and a huge enablement benefit potentially to be had. So excellent. So what we've ended up with, and this is where we are now. So just double checking then, you've got Apollo, Better Contact and Surf licenses, or is Better Contact only being pulled through on Surf?
So we have one license for Apollo and Better Contact, but we have quite a premium subscription with Better Contact to make sure that we have the API volumes.
Got you. So this is what you guys ended up with. This is
a dream.
Almost a traditional looking cold call stack, but actually when you look at the data tools you've got in here, it gives you a good ability to build lists based on accounts. You've got some waterfall enrichment, which we know can feed from tools like Casper, as well as a number of others. So you're getting some access to some of the best data in EMEA, as well as the other tools. Better Contact, when you search, depending on region, depending on persona, it also searches through that waterfall in a different order based on all of their data. So they're doing some of that legwork for you. You've got Surf to help create those contacts into Salesforce so your team can work consistently through a list. And you've got Sales Navigator and, of course, your own dialer to help give them real good AI note-taking, and from what I've seen, extremely accurate note-taking. And this is what's helping you build more and more pipeline. So great to see it.
It is, and this, it's not a cheap stack either. I mean, these are some premium tools here with Rocketphone. Obviously, we get that for free because it's our own. But Better Contact as well. There is cheaper data out there, but it won't be accurate. You won't get 70, 75, 80% mobile phone number accuracy. So yeah, I think it's worth to invest in a lean but quality tech stack.
Yeah, and like LinkedIn's also pushing the price up a little bit there as well.
Yeah.
But this is an estimated minimum cost based on all the public available data, guys. So this is just a very rough guide. But Sam, been an absolute pleasure as always, and yeah, thank you for sharing all the insights, giving us a little bit of an understanding on how you and your team are succeeding in the market. And yeah.
Brilliant, thank you, James. I mean, excellent tool you've built this, Stakki. I think I could have done with this when I was building it out for the first time. I wouldn't have made the original mistake, but glad to be helping now.
We got there in the end. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, James.